Hey everyone, today I wanted to try and do something a little ambitious, which is rank every character in the entities realm from least to most powerful. A bit like we've done with the killers before, but this time the whole realm. This is going to be hard because power scaling things always is, especially with license crossovers and whatnot. However, I hope everyone can enjoy it regardless. Be sure to drop your own thoughts on this overall scaling down below. The main things I will focus on when considering power are physical strength, strategic capability and intelligence, and also any supernatural experience or power. Entities realm related knowledge will also make them higher in the list. Let's get into it. To start off, as the base, we are going to discuss the regular humans. This is a tier for every character who is essentially just a human with no additional power, or skill set that is going to help them in the realm. These are the characters that are the closest to just normal people. This we're going to go through fairly quickly. It includes Dwight, Meg, Claudette, Jake, Nia, Ace, Feng, Adam, Jeff, Jane, Zarina, and Hyunjin. These are all just people in the realm. They all admittedly have some relevant skill to survival, but relative to other characters, they are the standard for survivors, I feel. So that's going to be our initial benchmark. On to the regular humans with helpful experience. The characters here have specific skill sets that will help them in the realm, or lots of training in survival or combat, or are simply physically stronger than the first group. We're going to start off here with the physically stronger characters. David has experience as a fighter and has been through lots of rough times and scrapes. Kate also gets a slightly higher placement due to her interactions with the entity, where she managed to shake free of its grasp, and seemed able to due to the positive force she carries. Yui is another above average tough character who overcomes many things, is a capable strong leader, stood up to the Oni, and doesn't afraid of anything. Next we have our first killers. Keep in mind all killers seem to have a baseline physical buff, I guess you could say, when it comes to their strength. Bubba and Clown I want to follow up with here as two characters that are physically strong over the first tier of characters, but aren't much else aside that. Their strength is their main thing. Pig I want to put up next as a character who has more intelligence and strategy that she learnt from Kramer. She is quite capable from what we see in the films, but similar to Bubba and Clown, isn't always the most efficient character. Legion are similar, with heightened strength from the entity, and a slight leg up by the fact that they are a group of 4. Trickster I will put slightly above, a fairly regular human, except with clear heightened senses and speed, able to rapid fire his blades at an abnormally quick speed. Twins I then want to put next as stronger characters who have had lives of running and survival. There's also 2 of them, which ups their strength a bit. These 2 are toughened from their years of running. Next I want to group the characters who have specific training that will help you with survival, strategy, and combat. Tap and Jonah are 2 characters with training as a detective and a member of the CIA. The 2 of them show they are physically capable, intelligent, and good at executing strategies. Jonah is a little higher I think, likely having more training within the CIA. The next group up are the characters who have experiences with the supernatural, which I think steps them up from those with training for the real world. These characters have faced supernatural forces, however many still being fairly young and inexperienced, but regardless have proven themselves in their respective universes. Laurie as a survivor of Myers is proven in facing the supernatural, and not only that, but literal evil. Granted, she isn't at her Halloween sequel power yet, but even in the original she shows clear strength against the otherwise unstoppable Myers. Quentin is next up, as a character who outsmarted and even fought Freddy, cleverly taking him down with careful planning. Freddy wasn't completely defeated, but Quentin certainly shows how capable he is in this moment. Nancy, Steve, and Jonathan are characters too that have a similar track record, repelling the forces of the Upside Down, and proving themselves strategically and physically capable with handling a more supernatural world, fighting Demodogs and Demogorgons. Sybil, Lisa, and James are pretty on par, I think, when it comes to facing down the creatures of Silent Hill, which is more of a test of mental strength than anything, it seems. They are above here, as I do think surviving Silent Hill is a little more impressive. Haddie is next up, and our first entity knowledge character. She isn't the most experienced Haddie from all of the different universe versions, but she has valuable supernatural experience, and research into the dredge, the entity, and the supernatural darkness of the world. For the realm, she is prepared quite well. Yoichi is known to have a great knowledge of the supernatural. He faces the haunting presence of Sadako head-on, and even seeks her out. Depending on how you view it, he's pretty powerful, and up there with some of the other characters. He shows clairvoyant tendencies too, I believe. His main downside is he isn't so knowledgeable on the entity, like some of the other original characters. Felix and Elodie are unique cases of having specific knowledge of the entity and its realm prior to arriving, and even having training as a result of their parents. They are likely the strongest out of the survivors without supernatural powers because of this. Elodie is definitely the stronger of the two, focusing more of her life training and looking into the entity than Felix, even facing down the entity cult, the Black Veil. On to the regular humans with very helpful experience or powers tier. Michaela I want to put at the very bottom of this tier, being slightly more powerful than the other survivors, having actual power with her boons. She is of course also a clairvoyant, able to foresee the future to some extent. She foresees the realm of the entity within a dream. She also fights back the entity on multiple occasions, evading its grasp, potentially being the most successful character to do so. Deathslinger is proven to be an incredibly deadly outlaw and smart inventor. He survives decades of shootouts and scraps with his gang, and captures many outlaws himself. Ghostface in a similar way is proven to be extremely deadly, and now in the realm is somewhat supernatural potentially, with the favour the entity has for him. He is scarily meticulous and cunning, and despite all he did, he was never captured. Scary dude. Doctor is another above average intelligence character with a relentless nature, and a clearly heightened physical strength and endurance. He can also shoot electricity from his fingertips, which isn't normal. Vittorio is a very unique survivor who probably has the deepest insight into not only the entity, but also the observer, and the seeming goal of the observers and their plan to take down the entity. In the final moments of his lore, similar to how Hag does, he appears to actually summon the entity with the markings he finds. Plague and Artist are two characters I want to put together, as they seem to be the two who are extremely favoured by the entity, which results in them having a sizable amount of power. Plague has a deadly plague constantly clinging to her that she can unleash onto others, causing them to suffer greatly and become permanently injured. Artist wields powerful crows that can pass through solid objects and injure from a large range. Their entity favour makes me feel like they are certainly higher than some of the others here. Rebecca, Shiva, Carlos, and Hunk are all the secondary tier of Resident Evil characters, who are all very proven in their ability, but not quite so much, I think, as some of the more prominent ones. All of these characters, however, have proven their abilities in strength, strategy, and facing down supernatural bioweapons of often large sizes. On to the Superhumans, or extremely skilled humans. This is the tier for superhuman characters, or characters who are supposedly just human, but survive unfathomable odds. Resident Evil characters, basically. Billy is considered superhuman due to his incredible speed, strength, and endurance capability. These appear to be abilities he had already, that were greatly increased when entering the realm. Trapper is another character who seems to have superhuman strength and endurance, with him capable of withstanding the many injuries on his body. He has a similar appearing tough skin like Billy too. He also has a more strategic mind, I think. Wraith is going to cap off this original supernatural trio as what I I think is the strongest of the three, a character with a much more powerful ability with his cloak, and clear supernatural strength, with his spine pulling. This combo I think makes him the highest of the three. Huntress is then gonna follow them up, and for similar reasons, she clearly has enhanced physical strength, and is an incredibly capable hunter, with good strategy regarding combat and stuff like that. She's extremely deadly, known for taking down squadrons of soldiers, and whole villages alone. Nurse is then gonna come in. Nurse may appear initially feeble, but she has a strong telekinetic ability that allows her to move people with a simple flick of her hand, briefly entering a sub-realm of the entity, before appearing once more to strike. She's definitely quite powerful, and her telekinesis makes up for her seeming lacking physical strength otherwise. Leon is going to be next up. As a character who survives the events of Resident Evil 2, he survives hordes of T-virus zombies, large bioweapons, such as the Lickers and William Birkin, and of course the tyrant, Mr. X. The Leon we have in the realm isn't quite at his Resident Evil 4 ridiculously overpowered state yet, but in RE2 he still has many impressive feats. Claire we can also place here, as she also survived the events of Resident Evil 2, and in her own story takes down William Birkin also, and fights through many zombies. She is going to be slightly lower, as she has a bit less training than Leon, and Leon I believe in his campaign has a few more fights. Nemesis is next up as an adaptive bioweapon. He is built like a tank, is wired to be zoned in on his targets, which he will relentlessly and lethally pursue. His adaptive capabilities do seem to be stifled in the realm, with his form in the games able to adapt and evolve into a huge unstoppable mass. A huge unstoppable mass is basically what Nemesis is. Mastermind is a step up from Nemesis as a bioweapon too, with incredible strength and also intelligence. He has superhuman speed, agility, and strength, and similar adaptive capabilities to Nemesis with Ouroboros. He is proven as a lethal force with his work for Umbrella, STARS, and himself. He was pretty close to world domination, had it not been for STARS members. Someone who's stronger than Nemesis though is Jill, who totally stopped him. She survived his pursuit throughout Resident Evil 3, and managed to overcome Nemesis largely on her own. Jill is a skilled investigator, and incredibly efficient in combat, able to take on huge bioweapons with her STARS training. Chris and Ada I want to pair together as the next tier up of Resident Evil characters, with similar track records for defeating crazily large bioweapons. Chris punches through literal boulders. The both of them are pretty unstoppable and survive a lot of unbelievable things throughout the Resident Evil games. But hey, so does every Resident Evil protagonist. These two I believe are taken from later in the timeline and so have more experience, which is why they're above characters like Jill, Leon, and Claire. Bill is proven as a soldier, a leader, and a slayer of thousands of zombies, many of these zombies being special infected, or large things such as tanks. Despite his death at the end of Left 4 Dead, Bill is clearly a very strong character. Onto the superhumans with supernatural powers. Hag is a very unique character, with the power of the hexes, which are able to influence life and death, and more complicated things like luck. In the realm, Hag has become seemingly merged with this power, having hex perks herself, and carving the triangular symbol into the ground, which allows her to teleport. It's debatable how strong she really is, but I'm pretty sure it's quite strong. Ash is the chosen one of his universe, and survives a ridiculous amount of deadites and demons, defeating them all with very little at his disposal, showing just how strong he is, and lucky, but also very strong. He likely has some kind of protection as this prophesized chosen one, but regardless, he's super strong, even defeating a demon the size of a skyscraper in the final episodes of the TV show, finally riding off to save the world from an apocalypse when he enters the realm. Cheryl is a character who defeats a god within Silent Hill 3, and has magical protections such as the Seal of Metatron. She defeats the creatures of Silent Hill and the Order, and generally just takes down a bunch of evil stuff. Due to her more magical focus, I would say she's probably the strongest survivor character in the game. This is even shown in gameplay with her perks like Repressed Alliance. She can call upon the entity to do things, and seemingly almost bend it to her will, potentially. Her only weakness compared to someone like Ash is maybe her age and lack of comparative experience. Demogorgon is a creature from the Upside Down that appeared to have lived there before the alterations made by Vecna. It's a creature with significant physical power, as well as speed, having one of the quickest attacks in the game with its shred. It can tear holes between the Upside Down and the right way up. Although this power is seemingly stunted within the realm, it is likely controlled by Vecna or the Mind Flayer, or potentially in the realm by the entity. Everything Upside Down related seems somewhat connected, almost like a hive mind, only making Demo more powerful. Their skin is known to be blade and bulletproof also. Spirit seems to be essentially the entity's own take on an Onryo. She doesn't have the same power as Sadako seemingly, but she is likely immortal in her current state, and also very angry. She chooses to wield her ancestral shattered blade, which she can summon from her arm, which likely holds some kind of magical power too. Knight is a character who seems incredibly similar to Oni in terms of their power. He has extensive experience in battles, and the wielding of weapons, and general anger tendencies. In the realm, he has become a ghost of some kind, it seems, and his ghost gang have come along for the ride, and are bound to him in some way. They are all certainly supernatural in some way too, and are very battle-hardened. Oni is a powerful demon created by the entity's power. Onis in folklore were sometimes considered as strong as gods, and threatened their power. Whilst Oni doesn't seem quite that strong, he does appear to have become a demon ghost kind of thing in a similar way, with considerable strength, particularly when in Blood Fury. His training from his years as a samurai also helps, of course. Blight is a very unique character who is quite hard to scale in terms of power. We know that he's been able to inject his serum into a series of very powerful characters, one of them even being Pyramid Head. However, it's unclear if that's something he did, like running past Pyramid Head quickly, or if he completely restrained him, like we see with Trapper in the Blighted Trapper cutscene. Blight's feats include discovering the entity's realm, creating a super soldier serum, and escaping the void, which is meant to be an inescapable death pit, essentially. But he totally got out, which is quite impressive. The serum provides him with strength, resistance, and a seemingly quite wide variety of secondary effects, based on the compound. Next we have the Unstoppable Immortal Powers tier. Freddy is going to be first up here. He's a dream demon, so immortal and seemingly completely unstoppable. What we see of him in the Nightmare on Elm Street remake is that even when he is seemingly beaten, he just comes back anyway. He's like a literal nightmare, as his name suggests. His only weakness is his restriction to the dream world for true power. However, within the dream world, he can do almost anything he wishes. Sadako is an Onryo, an immortal spirit with incredible power, and the ability to kill people with her eyes. She has a whole 7-day curse thing, but she also seems to have some kind of telekinetic ability. She is a powerful force, and I don't believe she was ever stopped. I believe, like her mother, she also has clairvoyant abilities, or tendencies, simply making her even stronger. Myers and Dredge have the connecting factor of both being considered as the embodiment of evil, both of them seemingly being immortal and unstoppable forces. Their very evil seems to almost infect places with darkness. I would say Dredge seems to have more of a physical and expansive influence over Myers, who is more restricted to his human form. But the both of them are extremely powerful as these forces of literal evil. Both characters are shown to have such power that they can modify the way the trials work. Myers can mori with some add-ons without even hooking, and Dredge can bring its nightfall into the trial, greatly altering the environment's lighting, which no other killer can do. Cenobite and Chatterer are both types of demons that originate from the Labyrinth. They're very powerful to the point where they kinda just rocked up to the realm one day and decided to stay, and the entity seemingly couldn't do much about it. They have significant power, even within the realm, able to teleport people out of it seems. The entity has little control over what they do, with chains spawning in, likely being summoned from the Labyrinth, showing their ability to connect the two worlds. Pinhead is likely the stronger of the two, being the Cenobite leader. but they are both quite strong, I believe. Executioner, I think, is debatably the strongest playable character in the realm. He's an immortal character who serves as a representation for James Sunderland's guilt and desire for punishment. After Silent Hill 2, he appears to have become a more general punishment role for anyone that it's required for. He's invited personally into the realm, with a strange non-verbal agreement with the fog. Within the realm, he is capable of completely altering the trials, spawning alternate hook types in cages, and moriing survivors too. He's also the only character who is able to physically disturb the trial grounds, by marking trails into the floor. The Observer is likely the second most powerful character in the realm, originating from the universe Terra Primus. He is likely very old, with him having knowledge of the entity and where it potentially originated from. The way he describes his homeworld, it appears to be a very advanced society technologically. The Observer was, for a long while, the only character in the realm the entity could seemingly not control or reach in any capacity. His wielding of the Oris allowed him to peer into the fog itself, accessing memories of those in the realm, and even tearing temporary gateways to places outside of the tower, showing the true extent of the Observer's power. The entity gets a tier of its own also. It's not only a powerful force within the realm, but it's seemingly a near unstoppable force out of it too. It's identified by the Observer to be one of the Ancients, suggesting it was there at the universe's creation. It's a being capable of reaching into all areas of the multiverse and stealing things for its realm. It's also capable of moving throughout space and time, seemingly making it near uncatchable and unstoppable. It further seems able to reach into the dreams of people, infiltrating their minds, and controlling how they perceive and think. It can take on many forms, but commonly manifests as the hardened claws or the fog. This is a being beyond comprehension, which torments the multiverse. Alright, well that's gonna do it. I do hope you enjoyed, and be sure to drop your own power scaling down below, or some characters you think should be moved around. Maybe that'd be a bit easier. Again, I do hope you enjoyed. This is a slightly bigger video than usual, so I hope you liked it, basically. Thanks, and okay, bye! Thank you for reaching the end of the video. You're the best.